good afternoon, everybody. This is your homie. This is Adamology here from the Oakland, San Francisco Bay Area. This is Believe Radio. And on today, we have a special show. I'm telling you, you are going to love it. So go ahead and share this, put it on your page, bring somebody in. It's going to be good tonight. Tonight, we're going to deal with what happened last night. Yes, we're going to deal with what happened on last night on the Oscars with Will Smith and Chris Rock. I have some guests. They're going to join me on today. They are grown men, family, men, children, everything. And so they're going to share some wisdom and really deal with this from a male's point of view. Welcome to the men's table. And we're going to have a really powerful time. So I'm going to start bringing in our guests. And as I bring them in, I'm going to have them introduce themselves. So the first person I'm going to introduce from the city of Fresno, California, he is the elder brother, Elder James Morgan.
You funny. James Archie.
Elder brother.
How you doing, little brother?
I'm doing great. Next, also from the city of Fresno, California, we have his younger brother, author and pastor, Jonathan Archie. Say hello to the people.
What's up, everybody? It's good to see you tonight. Thank you, Adamology, for this opportunity.
One of my father, pastor, gospel recording artist, all that in the bag of chips. You know, go wag your own tail. My father, Kelvin Morgan, he is in the building.
Hello, everybody.
What's up? Good to see you, man.
Yes, sir.
And so for those who do not know, I know it's been in the news, but everybody doesn't know what happened. And so what I'm going to do first is actually play the first clip, and then we'll talk about it. And then we have the apology that Will Smith did. And we'll take a look at that second. So let's take a look at this first clip of the whole situation.
Praying that Will Smith wins, like, please, Lord. Jada, I love you. G.I. Jane 2, can't wait to see it. All right? That was a nice one. Okay. I'm out here. Richard. Oh, wow. Will Smith did. Okay. That was a greatest night in the history of television. Okay. So we are here.
So as you see, I don't even know how to.
First of all, can you hear me?
I can hear everybody. Everybody's fine. And so I let's start with Dad. Let's start with you first. Was Will right? Was Will Smith, was he right to walk up and slap Chris Rock during a live broadcast? Was he right? Was he defending his wife?
Well, thanks for starting with me. Can you guys hear me okay?
I hear you.
Yes.
Will Smith was in no way right for what he did. He was absolutely in the wrong. Will and his wife, they make enough money and Will's been through enough stuff to not be offended, I would think, by what a comedian has said. And if you look back at some of the things that Will have said about people and they've not reacted, him himself being a comedian also, he should know these are just jokes. And I didn't find the joke overly disrespectful. Jada. But as I was talking to some people today discussing this situation, what happened between Will and Chris Rock is something much more deeper than what we're looking at on the surface.
Right.
That came from a different place.
Right.
Because you very seldom could find Will Smith out of character like that. And so he's going through something. I'll say from a fatherly point of view, I say he's looking for attention. He needs some people to pray for him, because we don't know what he's going through, but we could tell by what he's doing that he's going through something traumatic. And so I hope this is not the beginning of us seeing something even more destructive. But what I see this as is a cry for help. And I hope the people that love him, the people that surround him, I hope they can see the aspect of what I'm seeing. He is actually crying for help. And I'll just pause it right there and let somebody else chime in.
James, you want to hit this?
I would have to agree with Pastor Morgan. It's out of his character, and he was not right. But I think it speaks to, as Pastor said, there's some deeper issues, there's some other issues, and those are the things that we need to get to the root of. We need to root some things out in our conversation, because I think it goes beyond what Will did. It's going to go on to conversations. How do we speak to our young men and talk about conflict resolution? And they get it, they respond to it, and they think before they act. This is with Will being on that stage, and we're seeing rappers that are prominent that are losing their lives every week. We're seeing rappers being killed over social media posts. We're dealing with the crisis in our community.
Pastor Arch?
I would have to agree with both of you all in that there's a deeper underlying issue. And I think that now is the time for us to have this conversation as men, especially Black men, because of the narrative that we're going to have to systematically tear down and reconstruct. So let's get into it now. I'm excited.
One thing that's being said by certain individuals, that this is a display of manhood. This is how a husband, this is how he should take care of his wife. So is this the display of manhood? So it was what we do now. We slap people in the face when they talk about you. So is this a display of manhood? Is this fatherhood? Is this what a husband do? Dad, can you?
Yeah, let me tell you what I was very proud of. I think the display of manhood was shown at the professionalism of Chris Rock. Now, I've always liked Chris Rock work, but now I'm a true fan of how he didn't let this escalate into some foolishness that we had to watch for the rest of the year. I thought Chris Rock's response was very professional. I thought the way he carried himself after, the way he has not come out and tried to make a big statement and get a lot of attention, that is what a man does. Because the opposite of what Will did, if Chris Rock was shallow, the other young man would be sitting in jail right now. You see the PD came out right away. We're waiting for him to press charges. They would love to see two Black men pressing charges because that's the narrative. But Chris Rock didn't give him that. Chris Rock have showed me something more out of being a man than I've seen in a long time. He was respectful. He didn't go on the attack. And he stood his ground because he definitely was not afraid. But so the display, we seen two dynamic turns. We seen one acting out of character, and then we seen the other acting very appropriate That's what a man does. Because you guys, we're talking about the young people. Then I'll finish. We're talking about the young people seeing violence and thinking that they could fix the thing with violence. If Chris Rock had reacted, they could have had their teams in the back shooting at each other at the end of the little program they were doing. The young men need to be able to know this is how you handle stuff. It doesn't always have to go to death. There's another day. You can talk about another day, but the main thing is hold your composure and stand on the foundation that you've been taught.
You know, Pastor Murray, that's so true. And we see that in Chris's response and reaction. He really showed, in one act, it made us look bad, but in another act, it redeemed us. In that sense, Chris's response was, I'm not going to react to it like they're expecting me to. I'm going to handle this. I'm going to respect you like you should have respected me, and then we're going to handle this differently. And I appreciate that. But I want to ask something, though. Do you think his reaction, and my brother and I were talking about this, do you think his reaction was fueled by other inner demons, and he just used that as an occasion? And what I mean by that is he went from 0 to 1,000. Like, it wasn't even a normal progression of anger. It was like this instant, boom, explosion of behavior. Is there something else going on, and then just took that opportunity to manifest a more personal evil that's at play?
I believe it's more so on that side. I think, as Pastor said, Chris acted with a high degree of accountability. He knew why he was there. He knew the moment that he was on that stage for. So he was responsible and accountable in the moment. I think there's also a behavior that some of our actors have and actresses have sometimes, that they think they're above reproach. But you can open yourselves up to spirits that you absolutely have no control of. You know, I remember one time when I was acting a fool, my father made a statement to me. He says, son, says you can allow this spirit in, but when that spirit takes up residence and becomes a demon is not going to leave. And so, you know, we don't know what demons he's battling in his home, but last night something came out. When he sat down, I saw rage. And as instant as it happened, it went away after Denzel pulled him aside and said something. This is why I told my brother that the comment that Denzel made to him was something that we probably should have started with. He says, when you're at this level, he says, be careful, because the devil's going to come for you. And that's exactly what happened.
I do think,
and the devil comes in many forms and ways. Let's unpack that at some point too. How the devil came to him. Mm-hmm. You know, it was, to me, reminded me of a Jezebel and Ahab. You know, but that's for another day.
Yeah, and so, with that being said, let's look at the apology Will gave during the Oscars. Let's go.
Will Smith! Oh, man. Richard Williams was a fierce defender of his family. In this time in my life, in this moment, I am overwhelmed by what God is calling on me to do and be in this world.
making this film, I got to protect Ingenue Ellis, who was one of the strongest, most delicate people I've ever met. I got to protect Sanaya and Demi, the two actresses that played Venus and Serena. I'm being called on in my life to love people and to protect people and to be a river to my people. And I know to do what we do, you got to be able to take abuse. You got to be able to have people talk crazy about you. In this business, you got to be able to have people disrespecting you. And you got to smile and you got to pretend like that's okay. But Richard Williams, and what I loved, thank you, D. Denzel said to me a few minutes ago, he said, at your highest moment, be careful, that's when the devil comes for you. It's like, I want to be a vessel for love. I want to say thank you to Venus and Serena. I just spit. I hope they didn't see that on TV. I want to say thank you to Venus and Serena and the entire Williams family for entrusting me with your story. That's what I want to do. I want to be an ambassador of that kind of love and care and concern. I want to apologize to the Academy. I want to apologize to all my fellow nominees. This is a beautiful moment, and I'm not crying for winning an award. It's not about winning an award for me. It's about being able to shine light on all of the people, Tim and Trevor and Zach and Sanaya and Demi and Ingenue and the entire cast and crew of King Richard and Venus and Serena, the entire Williams family. Art imitates life. I look like the crazy father, just like they said. I look like crazy father, just like they said about Richard Williams. But love will make you do crazy things. To my mother, a lot of this moment is really complicated for me, but to my mother, she didn't want to come out. She had her knitting friends. She has a knitting crew that she's in Philly watching with. Being able to love and care for my mother and my family, my wife. I'm taking up too much time. Thank you for this honor. Thank you for this moment, and thank you on behalf of Richard and Oracene, the entire Williams family. Thank you. Hope the Academy invites me back. Thank you.
Him later today.
That's how it was personal.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have seen the apology that Will Smith made during the Oscars. So from an adult point of view, a man point of view, father, husband point of view, uh, what happened in that apology? Because number one, he didn't say anything to Chris Rock.
Right.
Later on today, after 4 p.m., there was a press release, and in that press release that was given out today after 4 p.m., it has Chris Rock's name in that, but not in this initial apology. So,
Well, we need to keep in mind of the reports though. Last night they partied together. They were at the after party, and Diddy brought them together last night. So he may have made an amend to him last night, but today was the public amend for everybody to hear, because he, his publicist probably said to him, "Hey, you did not say this when you were on stage giving your Oscar speech, so you need to make this right publicly." But it was said that last night at the party, they came together and they settled their differences. That's why they were partying together last night. And so they had that, of course. So we don't know the dynamics of that. It's just that the public optics of what he did is enough that even when he got up, he still didn't take accountability, responsibility in that moment to say, you know what, I really messed up, world, forgive me, and let's go from here.
But can I say something? Did you hear what he said in his opening statement? He said, "I feel this overwhelming burden and desire to fulfill something." I think in that moment, I haven't saw that clip, Adam. That's the first time that I actually saw that clip. But in that moment, it it made me rewind back to, it was what Denzel told him. The devil came for him because his reaction, he overreacted, but that reaction was to set him up to forfeit. I believe that in what he shared, he is convicted. I believe that there is this pressure to make his life matter, life count. I believe God could be dealing with him. I think he fell for the bait. And I think to explain his actions in slapping Chris, I think the answer for me came in his apology. He's battling within himself.
Dad, what do you say about this?
I agree with the pastor, and I didn't take his apology to everyone but Chris. I didn't take that very well. And what I'm saying is, the first person he should have apologized to was Chris Rock.
Mm-hmm.
Then he should have apologized to the Academy and everyone else that he offended. And you can see the battle. Now this is what I believe. I believe the devil puts you in these positions to create this kind of mess. Now listen,
Mm-hmm.
he says this. He says, "I'm really come for peace and love." But the peace and love he talked about was just the
Right.
opposite of what he just did.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So the devil will have you. The devil will have you looking crisscross,
Mm-hmm.
like a fool. And so I've watched Will Smith for years. I do believe he's battling some spiritual situations in his life.
Mm-hmm.
He's been embarrassed.
and I think he's out of his mind right now. He just can't get over some things, and that's why. And I mean, end on this. We have to be daily grounded in foundation of prayer, because if we let up, then we allow the devil to come in and take control. And when he takes control, he'll have us looking like some fools, and he'll have us doing things that we never thought we would do.
Yeah.
And I'll leave it there.
And and the devil uses this other piece. He uses many different mediums, vehicles, and modes and methods to get that kind of a rise out of us. And I think that his wife was just bait. I think
Mm.
when she didn't react and laugh and respond like everybody else did to the joke, whatever was boiling on the inside of him, he unleashed that fury. And I agree with you that you know, there is a deeper level of dysfunction that only I believe Christ can really resolve in his life. I think he is running. I think this is more spiritual, although a physical play out. I think it's more spiritual. And the world, of course, can't see that. But those of us who are spiritual, we know that you know that fight when somebody's fighting within themselves to surrender and to give up.
And we also have to look at the faith that he has embraced, him and Jada. They are known practitioners of Scientology. They had built a church, they had a school, and so they were dabbling in things. When you open yourself up to spiritual warfare and you don't know it, like I said, I saw that spirit of rage last night that he was dealing with, and that thing was still on him, which is why he was breaking down as he was giving the speech. But you still will not do things clear because you're under the influence. And I saw that spirit. I've seen that spirit many times. I deal with gang members and people doing discipleship, dealing with people who are not believers, and from 0 to 60, that spirit of rage will come upon them for no reason at all. It's an accusatorial spirit that they're accusing people of things that aren't really happening. But once again, after he came down, he had a responsibility to make this thing right for the community, not just for him and Chris Rock, but he's considered a role model to a lot of young folks and a lot of actors and a lot of people that look up to him. He's a role model, and he has to do everything he can to make sure his apology is believable and that he goes out of his way to show, if he's got to get with Chris Rock on a program and show that he's loving on him, he's got to do more.
So I'm looking at some of our comments on the feed, and I'm getting a couple of things. One is saying this is just toxic masculinity, and they don't believe that it's spiritual warfare. Because some people would say he just had a nervous breakdown. He's been under a lot of pressure. He's been embarrassed. His wife has been in a entanglement. He has been under a lot of pressure and a lot of drama, and so he just snapped. So what's the difference between spiritual warfare for a man? What's the difference between spiritual warfare and you just snapped?
Who wants to dive in first? Okay, I'll make mine brief, then I'll relinquish time to these elders. People who are not spiritually astute, that's their natural proclivity to try and define and rationalize it in a very practical way. We get that. No, when you're not, he that is not spiritual can't spiritually discern. And we get that to the world standard. But when we talk about under the influence of the enemy, again, I think his influence, his aggression and evil influence really is motivated by a very practical and natural dysfunction. I think the things that, something we haven't talked about yet is, the inner workings and the psychosis of he and his wife's relationship, the toxicity of that. And again, my brother may bring this up, but he was involved in a situation at an earlier stage in his life, somebody who was very similar to a Jada. And she would, well, I'll let him tell me, she would punk him just to prove his manhood to her. But how he responded determined whether or not he was in a sound place of judgment. So I think, yes, it was a toxic display of his masculinity, But I also think that there was something fueling that too externally, practically, something in his relationship between her. Maybe it was her alopecia insecurity, whatever it was. I think she egged him on to react, trying to defend his relationship with his wife. My opinion.
Yeah, and we had heard earlier a great conversation with two sisters that were talking about the Jezebel and Ahab experience, and being married twice. The first one I was way too young. I saw these situations to where you can be manipulated to be violent, and that person would act like, hey, you're a man. This is what a man's supposed to do. But that situation could have had me take somebody's life, or my life be taken, or me being incarcerated. Matter of fact, my couple of brushes with the law were behind dealing with my first wife. And so, we have to look at toxic environments and know when enough is enough too. We have to understand that, man, if this thing is not bringing me life, this relationship is not bringing me life, it's bringing me death, and I have to do something about it.
Dad, did you want to say something on this? Because I feel it.
Now, I want you to notice that when Chris Rock first made the joke, Will Smith actually laughed and thought it was funny. He didn't change his composure until he looked at his wife and noticed that she didn't think it was funny.
Right.
So what I want to say to this, when you're dealing with someone who has something to prove, you're dealing with a dangerous person. He was trying to, for whatever reason, he's trying to prove to his wife that he has her back. And that was not the opportunity to prove that. You prove that at home by how you talk to her, how you care about her, what you say in the morning. You ain't got to get out in the public and prove. You prove it at home. But he felt, I got to prove to my wife that I got her back. And he went and did what he did. So we need to let the young men know that there's a prison full of people who had something to prove.
That's good, Reverend. That's good.
You know what? Because in our community, the African American community, especially as Black males, is like violence.
Yeah.
Is the tool that we utilize to resolve everything. And I submit this to you in thought that the culture from even the TV shows and movies wants us to use violence as a tool to resolve issues. So we don't talk to each other as men. We don't talk to each other, pull each other aside in private and, air our grievances, but it's a fist, somebody getting punched, or worse, somebody pulling out a gun. So what can we do as Black men to shift from this violent mindset to a conflict resolution, conversation, dialogue? Let's go out to eat. What do we need to do?
I think we need to be more visible as men of faith in the community. We a lot of times get stuck on church and the church and dealing with only men inside the walls rather than people in our community knowing who we are. And I remember something that Bishop Macklin said one time, that there was a young pastor that wanted one of the bishops to check out his church, and he kept asking and asking to check his church out. So he finally went to go come to the pastor's church to see the work that he was doing. So before he let him open the door, he said, "Let's walk your neighborhood." They walked around the block, walked the neighborhood. They came back. The pastor got ready to open the door. He says, "Let's walk your neighborhood again." They walked it a second time. When they got back, before he can open the door, he says, "I think you need to close your ministry down and go work with your brother down the street." He says, "Because we walked your neighborhood twice and nobody knows you." And I think that's the bigger problem in being a role model, is who knows us? Who are we sitting down with in the community that we're keeping them from committing something that they're going to come back later on and say, hey, I thank you for talking to me. This is where we have to start. This should be more than a jump off conversation about what happened last night. It should be more about what's next, then what.
Retooling our narrative,
Mm-hmm.
retooling. History portrays the graphic negative narrative that Adam was saying, and so that's the portrayal of the images that we see on the screen, and even somewhat of the pressure in our own homes. There's a certain level of pressure that sometimes that a spouse can put on a husband to prove his love. I think Black people just need to be okay with therapy.
Yeah.
I think because
Professional therapy.
professional therapy, yeah, that part. And I'll tell you why. Because Jada didn't handle it right, spurring him to react. He did that, like you said, Pastor Morgan, and we've all been married. He did that trying to make some kind of public uh, prove approval to her, which was wrong. She should have never put them in that situation to have to respond or react like that. They should have handled it more diplomatic. Even they have history with Chris. He didn't say anything in a way that warranted that kind of reaction. Now, had he come for her, in a way that I think would have really disrespected her, then let the chips fall where they may, right? But he was very careful, even in his antics and his jokes. He was still careful in how he said it.
Mm-hmm.
One thing my dad has always shared with me was that everything doesn't receive a response.
Mm-hmm.
Everything doesn't receive a response because, especially as Black men, if we respond to every time we get disrespected, whether it's in church, on the job, in our families, we be locked up or dead because it happens all the time, especially in our culture. And so it's like you don't have to respond to everything that's disrespectful that happens to you. And if you do respond, there is a way to do it.
Right.
And so,
well, even in the streets, men in the streets have a way of settling a dispute. If a pimp had a dispute with another pimp behind a woman, there's a way that they have a code on how they handle that dispute. They handle it as men and not in front of the other pimps, not in front of the other players. That's how they did it. But this culture now, they don't have codes of what they call being a gentleman, even in the streets like they used to. There used to be things that men that they handled as men because, number one, they didn't want everybody in their business. Because when you're wide open, you invite scrutiny, you invite all kind of activity that eyeball that you want. But even so, at the level that Will and Chris are at, Will invited a scrutiny upon his life that was unnecessary. And it caused, when I was looking today at even Howard Stern weighing in on the conversation, Howard Stern of all people, with all the negative stuff that he said and he's done to our community, was trying to say Will needs psychiatric help, he needs meds, because that's the first thing that they're going to go to, because this was out of his character. But it makes you think of
But isn't that how they deal with the Black boys in school? They give us Redland. If you are if you're labeled the angry Black kid in school,
they're going to drug you
they're
up.
going to drug you up because
Or lock you up.
Or lock you up. Yeah, there is no conversation. They just assume we're going to be angry Black men and we're going to react in our emotion and all, and that's such a travesty. But Adam, can I throw this back at us? Pressure. As Black men, we need to talk about how to handle pressure, because I think too, just the weight, like everybody has said, something did snap. But pressure could have, like a pressurized pipe, it'll explode, if if the right magnitude of force of air gets to a place where it needs an escape. So how do we as Black men handle, and I think maybe that's the conflict resolution piece, but how do we handle pressure when we're under pressure?
I think that goes to one, having the right circle, having the right circle. And so I don't know who Will has around him, but having the right people around you that you can have a conversation with and be like, I'm really under pressure, and somebody to, take you out to eat, say, get in my car, we're going driving, or do, having people, a circle, a tribe that you can have a conversation with and get that, was getting the thought out of your head, because it's the thought in your head that mutates. And then once that thought mutates, it becomes action. And so now you're behaving from a thought that you could have actually took care of if you talked to somebody.
But it goes to another conversation. You can have people in your circle, but does your circle have wisdom? And
You have to have the right circle, the right tribe.
exactly. So wisdom is the principal thing. It's like last night, the only thing that registered with him was the wisdom that Denzel gave him. Because
Right.
Tyler Perry, other people had pulled him to the side, but it was nothing they said to him that made him stand down in the moment, except the one that says,
That's been
basically
there.
letting them know that, hey, this is warfare.
Yeah.
The devil's coming for you. And so you need wisdom when you get to certain levels, because you have to go in kind of a protection mode, almost whenever you're dealing with success. You got to go into some kind of protection mode, because not only if you have a calling on your life, the enemy's going to try to mess with that, but you also have people trying to take your life because they don't want you to be successful. And so you have to have wisdom talking to you that tells you sometimes, look, stay out of the public eye. You don't need to go. You don't need to be seen all the time. How much adulation is enough? How much do you need? If it's about family, be home with your family. Be content with your family. You don't have to always be out there and be seen. So those are things that wisdom has to show up and talk about.
I have Pastor Leonard Dew from the city of Oakland, California. He says, toxic masculinity, love doesn't help you act out in violence. Is that right? Love doesn't have a violent piece in it?
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Elder Pastor,
well, let me speak from my marital perspective. Me and my wife will be celebrating 40 years this Christmas, and there is absolutely some things that I would not tolerate somebody saying to her. And I came from the streets. I came off I'm a PK, but when I was in the street, God taught my hands to war. So thank God for salvation and deliverance. But I also know how to conflict resolute. I know how to pull somebody to the side and have a conversation. And depending on how they deal with the conversation is whether you deal with the escalation on it. And this is something that we even teach young men that get stopped by police officers. 9 out of 10 times, how you interact with a police officer as a Black man, it determines how you're going to go home, depending on your tone with them. So if you get pulled over, I have been in situations where I had a police officer pull a gun on me, but it didn't go the way that they wanted to go because I didn't give them a reason with my tone to take it there. And I've been in situations more than once when a gun was put in my face, but it was the way that I handled the situation where they put it down because of how I responded. And I've also had to be on the other side where I've had to talk to people about to do something and talk them down, because it's how you de-escalate a situation. But men will respond if you pull them aside. Hey man, let me talk to you for a minute. Let me conversate with you. This thing that you about to do, have you thought about it? Whenever you put something on display, that's when people overact, because it's like, oh, I gotta show up. But I'm just praying from this point on that the conversation with Will is that somebody that's close to him, that's spiritually inclined, is going to reach him before we have a tragedy in our community to where it could have been help beforehand. You know, I remember, I was young enough to remember when Jimi Hendrix died, there were people that were on tour with him that said that he was crying out, he was asking for prayer, and there was no one to pray with him. I remember when Mike Tyson, when he went to prison, he was asking for people to pray with him, but the guy that did come and pray with him turned his situation around because he changed. So, but we need people who have strong spiritual foundations to step up, stand up, and speak in our community.
So if I'm a young man married, somebody says, you know, your wife is bald headed, she looks like G.I. Jane, okay, and rage bubbles up out of me. How do we channel the rage, the masculine man rage? Because a lot of times I think that's one of the issues that we haven't taught our boys, how to manage rage, or how do you cut it off? How do you kill it?
Well, you have to have tools.
So how do we deal with this rage within every man? How do we deal with this rage?
We have to. Can you guys hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
We have to. 5 to 6 years, character is being formed.
Say it all over again, Dad.
Okay.
You broke up.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. We hear you.
How about now?
What did you have before? It was better when you, I guess, had the earpiece closer to you.
I'm gonna go ahead and let somebody speak because I'm in traffic, son. Go ahead, carry on. I'm listening.
Okay, older brother, pastor.
Okay. I think what we have to do is, what helped me was my dad telling me I had to have a sense of humor. I was one of those rageful brothers in my marriage. My first marriage broke up because, like I said, I was a violent person. I didn't respond well to the stuff that my first wife would do. And not only will I go after somebody, but I would go after her. I'm being transparent. And so as I grew up with my second wife, and I would say grow up with her because she's a woman of faith and she's here in ministry with me now, I had to have a sense of humor. I had to learn how to laugh and smile rather than going off. And so now that's part of my character is I smile because I know where the other side's going to take me. I've been there, done that, but I haven't been where God wants to take me yet. I'd rather stay in that place because that's a beautiful place because it helps people. It helps people that, matter of fact, I had a situation yesterday. Young man here in our ministry, my brother prophesied to him last week, and he calls me yesterday, or he tells me yesterday morning, I'm not going to be at church today because I don't want to see this woman and blah, blah, blah. He's telling me everything's going on, but he didn't tell the whole truth. But he says, but I know myself, and he has a spirit of anger, has anger issues. And so he came to the church in the morning. He was there for discipleship, and then he left. I didn't bother him too much, but he was being honest of where he was. And then I called him today, and I dealt with him today. I said, you remember what was spoken to you? You know, you don't have to rush nothing. You know, I said, if you got more rain and clouds, then you have sunshine that's telling you something right now. You know, you're going to get caught up. You need to walk away. And so everybody needs somebody that's going to talk to them like that.
You know, that's exactly what my father used to say. All of us have that trait and that gene in us when it comes to anger and aggression. And my father, being a man of few words, growing up in the South, he would always tell us, you got to laugh. And we didn't really appreciate that till we got older and realized that that really was a tool and a strategy on diffusing volatile situations. He also said to us, get in the car and take a drive. Remove yourself from the situation. Don't cause anything that will cause you to regret your action and behavior. Um, I also, this is just unfortunate because what we saw was a display of somebody who has everything go off.
Mm.
And so when you're looking at brothers in the street who don't have nothing, the reaction is, well, why should my attitude and behavior change when those who do have act the same way I do and I don't have? So there's going to be some ramifications behind all this because again, I said in Adam showing that clip, I heard Will's challenge. He's in the fight of his life for his soul. The devil gave him bait, he took it because out of the heart the mouth speaks. When he was speaking, that was his heart speaking. So he was, in a sense, trying to tell us, I'm drowning, and I know I got to fulfill. I know I was given a bigger purpose than what I'm doing. I heard what he said. I also know that when you come into that understanding for your life, you will be greatly challenged. I believe that that was his test, that Chris Rock was his test last night. He blew it, but thank God for redemption. And I just hope and pray that we as a culture can flip this narrative in a way before the media does, and that we quickly begin to let this become a wake up call.
I'm gonna let Pastor Morgan go ahead, but I just thought of something. When the Bible said rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft, and I don't like calling somebody's wife a witch, but there's something going on
That's sinister.
right, that's sinister. All right, Pastor Morgan.
No, I was just saying, hopefully you guys can hear me okay. I was saying that, there's something a little more deeper. I am glad to hear that they might have had some reconciliation that afternoon. But one of the steps we need to do is make sure that as we're speaking about this, we don't run past what Chris Rock did. We need to make sure that we let people know that and praise him for what he did and how he didn't overreact to a situation that was very embarrassing. Chris Rock has family too. He has a mom and brothers and sisters, and they're telling him what he should have done. Matter of fact, I heard most of the people on social media today, if they had done that to me, we'd have been all that. So we need to make sure while we're telling this story, don't let just the story be about Will Smith. Because the bigger part of the story is about Chris Rock and how he stayed
That's well
with
said.
his composure.
We got to amplify the positive. And that's true. True to that, that's what shapes our narrative. That's what changes our narrative, is we have to infuse it with a different voice of news. So you're absolutely right.
Right.
Well, I'm going to have to end. We are hitting definitely that hour mark. It doesn't even seem like this was even an hour, but I do want to do this again because it's time for men, for us to talk and share and groom and teach, especially the younger generation, and even talk to each other.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm going to have to do this again. Again, I want to thank my dad, Kelvin Morgan, my older brother, Elder James Morgan, and the pastor and the author, Jonathan Archie, for joining me on tonight on Let's Chat, the men's table. And again, violence is not the answer to resolve a problem.
Responsibility and accountability.
Is not the answer.
Thank you, Adam. Great opportunity.
God bless you, son. You did a great job. Thank you
all.
both, pastors. Appreciate you guys.
And so stay tuned to Let's Chat. I have another show next week. Make sure you tune in to Believe Radio Bay Area. And this is your homeboy, Adamology. And I'll see you later.